Rev was
Absolutely.
talking about like, man, if I could go back and do, maybe I wouldn't have done that thing, or like, you know, if I knew better now, if I knew it then, what I know now, if I knew better. But it's those experiences that when we come out of those things, um, they make it more real. Like they make it more relatable to the average person that's just out there hopeless, struggling, that they've been hurt by a church that, or like Catholicism, whatever, that saying it and not doing it, and they they need somebody that like real knows real. They need somebody that's been through it, that knows what it's like to not want to see another day. That's been so under spiritual attack that they can't hear clearly and they don't know who they are and that they have such purpose and divine light in them.
You run
Yeah.
into people's like that, and they don't even know anything that you know, but you know that one, that right there, Jesus loves that soul right
Hallelujah. Yes,
there.
that's a witness, Rev, is that
Yes.
some people have never actually had the gospel relayed to them in the true way, or a way that connects to them, or it was relayed wrongly, or aren't in the church at all, or don't know much about Jesus at all, but they are just, you can see he lives in them or with them, and that they're on the path, that they get what it means to, there's no greater love than to lay your life down for another. Like they just walk it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Look, I
so
was
good
going
to
to
do
read
that,
this
is
to you.
break down the religion, man. I love that. Jesus did not come to start a new religion. It just so happened they called them Christians because they were little
Yeah.
Christs out there. But he came to set the world free from that and to show us that we can all walk just like he walked. We can all do greater things just like he did. We're all children of God. And I know that there are people out there that are doing it and they don't even know it.
All right. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Truth Unfiltered. I am your host, The Rev. Now, that name has, I don't know, it's a small attachment to this world, I guess. It's just a name, though, The Rev. I do have a story that comes with that name, but it's not that big of a, it's not like a fascinating story or anything. It's just a name I was called back when I used to live a different lifestyle. But I I believed at the time I was speaking the truth. And over the years you learn and you realize that the truth you thought you were speaking is may or may not necessarily be the truth. It's really weird because it feels awful when you figure it out something isn't right. Something wasn't taught right or wasn't said right or brought up right and explained and expressed to you correctly. Like it's almost like being thrown out into the crowd of people and saying, "Here you go survive. Here's the world." Boom. Release. It's strange how times have changed. Welcome to Truth Unfiltered. I want to give a good welcome to Brother Barry Bullholter, because he has enlightened my day today. He's made my whole week and my whole effort, and just as worth it as any one of you when I talk to you, any other people within the chat community. I wanted to give a special thanks to Brother Barry Bullholter for sparing me his time today. It's a blessing. You get to talk to you guys, to meet you guys in person whenever those times arise. And I think we're going to get back to that point one day. Blessings, Brother Connor. I see the Culticon has joined us this evening. It's good to see you, brother. I see Miss Trish Clark is in the house, as well as Miss Allison M. We have Kim M. and Brother Chris T., as well as Brother Scott Free. That was Scott Free in the beginning of this, by the way. That was his wonderful voice. We have Kim M. When I saw the notification, I couldn't believe my eyes. Blessings at Allison M. Ooh, that's a good sign. That may be a thing worth perching up on my seat a little bit more, or either that I had to scratch my leg. But that's a good sign. That means the algorithm's trying to pick me up a little bit, and that's a good thing, I guess. So it gets the word out there at least. The more people talk about this stuff, the more real it becomes. The crazy thing is it's real whether you've accepted it as being real or not. This whole little season narrative is just a narrative, but it's a narrative found in truth. And I wanted to clarify something the other night. I did say his name right one time, I believe, but I think I misspoke on his name once, and his name is actually Tyler Woods, not Terry Woods. Brother Terry is another fellow that has a really nice channel, and that's over there at 5022 Freedom. But Brother Tyler Woods, I stumbled across his channel. I saw him in chat one day and came across his channel and subscribed and started listening to some of his content, and it makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, I enjoyed it. I've had a good time listening to his the way he tries to break down the little season narrative. I mean, it's all the layers of deception. I mean, it takes all of us. It takes every one of us in this community working together on this on a daily basis, because every day you're surrounded with deceptions, things in this world that are meant to kind of like subvert your attention, just to distract you. And if we don't allow the distractions to overcome us, we can stay focused and stay on track with things. It's a lesson I had to learn real young in life. It's like, take this medicine or learn to behave. So it's you learn to behave, because the medicine makes you feel like you're, I don't know, caged inside somehow, unable to escape. The wild thing is, when it comes to names and who we are and where we come from, we like to think of ourselves as somebody who come from someone great or grand or amazing, as if that somehow matters. It's kind of like in Matthew chapter 1, where it talks about all right. Where was it? Where was the part? What were the behold, virgin shall become a Christ. With us, they sleep today. Well, I think I lost my train of thought on that. It's these names that become important. Oh, yeah. I don't know why I couldn't remember that. What in the world? Yeah, I am in the right book. Chapter 1. Okay. All right. And they shall call his people. All right. Here's what I was trying to say. I don't know why I was having a hard time finding that. It's because of where I've got this screen versus this screen. This screen is different. Anyways, maybe I just can't read good. But it says here, chapter 1, Matthew, verse 21, and she shall bring forth a son that shall call his, and thou shalt, that's them, that's the people, thou shalt call his name Jesus, for he shall save his people from their sins. And I think we made it clear, or at least the other 20 verses before that made it pretty clear that that's just, it is important to know where he come from. However, those people's time has come and gone. He's now dealing with a different generation. That's his generation that he's dealing with. And the people that he come to save would be the people that would accept him as their Lord and Savior, as their Christ who died on the cross and came back to life, who died for their sins. It would be those people who stood up for what was right and would be martyred as a result of it. Blessings, Brother Donut. Good to see you. I see Half Truth is in the house as well. Man, I don't know if you guys seen Half Truths in Con Man's live. I wasn't able to make it live, but their conversation it's always stellar, though. It's stellar. It was an amazing conversation. I don't want to give anything away, so you guys go over there and check Brother Connor's and Brother Half Truth's conversation out over there at the Cultic Con whenever you guys get a chance. I mean, he does really good work. Brother Connor does. It's amazing, really. He stands for the truth, and I applaud him for it. He understands the layers. It's wild when people start unraveling this stuff. They start seeing the truth for what it really is. I like going through this thing pretty slow and kind of methodical. I want to think about it. I like to analyze what I'm reading and understand what it says, and somehow I end up asking these questions like, who is this? Why is this? When is this? Where is this? It's like knowing where all these places are in the world. We're taught to look at the world the way it's shaped it. We're taught to look at the world as it's shaped like a globe, but even in that, the layout of the land is designed and shaped in a certain way and laid out a certain way. North and south is designed a certain way. East and west is designed a certain way. Whether it's a flat map of the earth or a round globe earth, it doesn't really matter. The layout of the land has been dictated by man to tell you what is what, where is what, when is what. All of this stuff has, really. It's like everything we learned in school. I love my history teachers. I don't hate any of them. I learned a lot from them, I felt like. But it's only now that I realize that even they're deceived. They're just teaching what they were taught, plain and simple. It's not an attack on the wise, so to speak. It's an attack on the ones who are false woke or telling lies. It's the ones that would be out here trying to deceive you. Those are the ones you need to have discernment for and look out for. It's like all these names we read about, like the Jews. I know we're not even supposed to say that. I don't know how to censor that. How do you censor that name, the Jews? We're talking about stuff that's in a Bible that everybody's supposed to know and understand, supposedly. What's going on here? Why can't we read these names? Like, now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king. Are these names important? Because if you read other books like Maccabees, for example, I know I've brought that up a time or two, and perhaps I'll do a Maccabees series. J suits. That's a good way. That's a good way, I guess. Yeah, J suits. But what we find out is this Herod here that you're reading about in Matthew chapter 2, Herod the king, he's the second Herod. There was another Herod before him. And when you find out there was another Herod before him, what was his deal? What was going on during his day, his time? And so you have a series of revolts going on. You know, the Israelite people, they did not want to conform to the ways of Rome. They were in constant rebellion against Rome. They were constantly breaking the law, not doing what they were told, basically. They were probably considered scum of the earth compared to the rest of the world, just because of their discontent for obeying the authority of Rome, this false system, this idea, this place, or whoever, or whatever it was they wanted to recognize it as. This Herod come from that line of that other Herod. And it's wild because he's kind of good, but kind of not good. He's kind of like, I don't know, he reminds me of Donald Trump. when I read about him, it's wild. It's like, I didn't know people didn't know he was was Jewish. I didn't know people didn't know Donald Trump was Jewish, but apparently they didn't know that Donald Trump became Jewish back in 2017. It's just not a thing that gets put on the news. None of us knew. How could we know unless they tell us, right? Well, there's certain things that people do. That's why these names are important. When we go through the Bible and you read through these books like Numbers and Kings, and you start learning about all these different people, who are they, what are they, and what did they do? That's what led to all of this. That's how you understand your history. That's how you recognize the right from the wrong. It says, this Herod, though, said, behold, there came wise men. Well, he didn't say that, but it was just telling you, line one is just telling you there's a King Herod, and behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem. It's interesting because you could take Jerusalem where they tell you it is today, and you end up in Asia, which is interesting because you could kind of flip it around and put Israel in America somewhere, and what is to the east? It's Asia, if you flip it upside down. So, I mean, it's either way. However you do it, it's wild. You could flip it upside down and you could reverse it. It still puts Asia in the east. It's almost like trying to deceive you, but it just can't do it type of thing. Saying, where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him. They saw a star in the east and are come to worship him. That's interesting. When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. It's like that star was moving from east to west, and they were following it. It's almost like they're going around in a circle, almost. It's what I'm seeing in my head. It's what I'm seeing. It's what I'm seeing in my head. Guys, you got to see this, I guess. You got to see what's in my head to see what I'm seeing as I'm reading this. If you have America or the Americas over here, and you flip this around, it's east to west, right? Yeah. If you go upside down, so it'd be east. You'd go east, and you'd end up over here in like China and India, in this area where the three wise men came from. It's why. Hold on, let me show you another. Let me show you another. Let me show you another example. It's why. Look at this. This is what's wild to me. You have China over here, and Russia. Look, it's all green. Look how green that is. Look how green Russia is, and look at how green the Chinese area is, the China area is. But then you have Thailand and China and all that, and then you have India over here. It's kind of lush, but India's a little bit, but like right here, look how this is spilling out. Look how all this is just kind of like just flowing. All this stuff here is just kind of flowing around. It's melted, just fervent heat, burning the crap out of everything, just tearing up the world. Boom, then it's good over here. We're good over here. Except our river dried up. Dadgummit. What's wrong with us? We just can't act right. We just can't act right over here. But a third of the earth burns up. It's all melted. Boom. It's wild. Whether you start over here and go this way, you end up in the east, you still end up in the Asian countries, Asia, the Church of Asia. It's where the wise men came from. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you dizzy, but I was getting excited because I like tracking some of these people down sometimes. And that's how you find some of these little nuggets, little gems of gold hidden throughout all the many layers of the little season. It's wild. The things you learn when you start really just looking for yourself instead of just relying on others to tell you. And a lot of this community has come together, and we're all sharing what we know and what we've learned, and how it all just unfolds one layer after the next, or one level after the next. However we do it. We either add to these layers or we take them away. The goal is to get through all the layers, to see all the little nooks and crannies, all the little disguises that they use to hide the truth. Blessings, Kim M. Wasn't trying to make you dizzy. I just get a little excited sometimes, but man, it's wild looking at those images like that, those pictures. When you see how the world is really designed and shaped, you can kind of follow these people a little bit better. There's a reason Canada's called Canada. It's not because they just like that name and they're from France. It was the land of Canaan. They just call it Canada today. It's just one of those layers of deception. It's a thing that gets applied to society through that Overton window that we've discussed. Brother Dojo III says, I've talked to 3 co-workers this week about Revelations 20, and they are all younger than I am, and they seem to be receptive, though. I don't know if they will do their due diligence to look into it so hard. Yeah, I go through that often. Like, people will listen to me sometimes, but I know they don't. A lot of times they don't do anything after that, after listening. It's like they're not going to go read this stuff themselves. That's that indoctrination, that layer of thought that we don't have it in us to uncover what this stuff has to say. I know I'm moving kind of slow through this thing, but there's a few layers of thought that I wanted to kind of shake off and get out of the way before we move forward with this, so people understand where I'm coming from whenever I talk about certain people within this thing. This star Well, they did see it in the east, but it was moving around, but it ends up in the center somewhere. It's really amazing how this thing operates or works. It says, saying, "Where is that king of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and we are come to worship him." They seen his star from the east, basically. And when Herod the king had heard these things, he troubled and all Jerusalem with him. Yeah, they were worried. Not just him, apparently. It was all of Jerusalem. It was the entire city of the Israelites, all the Jews, basically. They were all kind of nervous when they saw the signs. They had been looking out for these signs for decades and generations up to this point. Each of those names we read about, those families and so on, would have been looking forward to the 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 return or the birth of their king, the arrival, the great arrival. When Herod the king heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Bless his brother Kingdom Within. That's Brother Tyler over there at Kingdom Within. I love the way he carries on his message. It's really amazing. Everybody has their little ways that they express themselves when it comes to the little season. And I don't know, some people get afraid of it. Some people have reasons they can't deal with it. And then some others, they tend to stick to it. So we reach out and we pray for them, and we try to lift everybody up in prayers. Absolutely. We'll keep Brother Tyler in our prayers 100%. We'll keep him in our prayers. We've asked Brother Tyler to join us this weekend on Discord, and if he gets around to it and has the opportunity, I think he may. But we'll see about that when that time comes, and we'll love Brother Tyler either way. Everybody has their struggles and their trials that they have to overcome, and it's part of this life that we live in. We're all victims of everyone's deception when it comes to the little season. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes and the people together, he demanded of them where Christ should be born. So he's wanting to know. This is King Herod, the second King Herod, wanting to know. He's wanting to know where's your Christ going to be born? Tell me. He's asking everybody. And they said unto him, in Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet, and thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, art not the least among the princes of Judah? For out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel. What he's saying is that this is letting you know that these people have been expecting this. Like, it's been a prophecy for a long time coming. It's now time for it to happen. They're seeing all the signs. Everything in the sky is lining up. Everything's exactly the way it was talked about. We live in 2025 in land of Candy Crazy Land or whatever. We live in Crazy Land time. And in Crazy Land time, we don't know hardly anything about anything. None of this stuff should make any sense to any of us, but it kind of does, and so we stick with it. But I'm saying that everything that's out there, there's a lot more information as to what all occurred during all these times, and to help you really break down what people were thinking and what they were going through at that time. But if you wanted to get into all of that, there are those avenues. And I'm not saying that you have to do anything like that. It's just another way to climb a mountain is all that is. Thank you, Brother Tyler. That's a blessing. What a blessing, Brother Tyler. It's good to have you here, my man. I'm glad to see Brother Scott's here with me as well. You guys are a wonderful community. Oh man, y'all really are such a great group of people. Everybody that I met. I mean, not everybody gets along. It seems like there's a little bit of division here, a little division there. And honestly, I think if we found the root of it, it just comes down to time. I don't think everybody has the time to sit down and listen to every single content creator out there. But it gets hard to pick and choose which ones you want to listen to sometimes. So I never hold any hard feelings to anything like that. So it's a blessing, and it's an amazing experience to me to be able to see so many people come together on a random Thursday with this guy named Rev on the internet call in a place called YouTube. It's a blessing, and that's one of those things that we need to not ever take for granted, really, especially in the times we're living in. You know, they'll try to take this from us, though, especially if it grows and becomes a normal narrative. And that's what I think what I'm trying to do here. I think that's what a lot of us are trying to do is we're trying to normalize the truth and make telling lies no longer the thing to do. Tired of being awful. I want to be full of awe. you know. Then Herod, when he had had privately called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared. And when he sent them to Bethlehem, he said, "Go and search diligently for the young child, and when ye have found him, bring me word again, that I may come and worship him." He's telling a ruse. I mean, he's not really planning on worshiping him, is he? I mean, he could be. Yeah, I don't know. We haven't got that far. But I think most of us already know the outcome. But if you were a new person to this, you would have to ask that question, Is he really going to give praise to this young child? Is he really going to worship him? You really learn no, he doesn't. He's telling a ruse, he's telling a lie. It's wild though that they knew he was coming. This is an amazing thing. When they heard the king, they departed, and lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them till it came and stood over where the young child was born. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding joy. And when they were come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. And being warned of God, first, let's back up. They go to Mary's house. I thought they went to a manger. Maybe it was a manger. But it doesn't matter where it was necessarily. That's one of those things that people argue about, especially like, certain titles that people have throughout the scripture. It's only relevant in that time. It's not necessarily a relevant thing throughout all time. Like what kind of dwelling Jesus was in. But these men saw the young child with Mary and his mother, and they fell down and worshipped him. They bowed down. They got all the way down to their knees, and they put their heads and hands on the ground. They were worshiping this child. And when they opened their treasures, then they presented unto him gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh. And being warned of God in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed into their own country another way. Interesting. It's like God knew Herod was up to no good. Herod was a ruse teller. He was a fibber. He was one of them naysayers, one of them liars, one of the deceivers in the world. A tyrant governor is what he is. It's interesting because where that word comes from, in some ways, it ends it the word tyrant ends up as king somehow. It's just that Overton window, that shift of the narrative. It's the best way to explain it now. Now I don't have to go into long, drawn out details with certain things. I can just shift it over to that, and it just makes it make sense to me, anyways. But God warned them in a dream, so they wouldn't return to Herod. And when they departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph. Holy mess! There's that angel of the Lord again. Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise and take the young child and his mother and flee into Egypt, and be there until I bring thee word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. Weird how they want to take this white baby to Egypt. Or was Egypt not white, or was it black? Well, does it even matter? At this point, it hadn't even told us anything like that. That's the point I want to make, is that none of that matters. But the reality is, and that there may have been a place like that was one race or the other. There may have been a time where one group of people ruled the world over the rest of them. Just because you are a child of Noah doesn't mean you have any more authority to dominion over the world than anyone else, other than to say that Christ has true dominion over the world. It's kind of like what Brother Connor says, the Christ dominion movement. We need to take heed to these words that we read and understand that it's all about, really, at the end of the day, just doing what's right. Doing what Christ was sent here to teach us so that we could be saved. It's a shame he had to go through the things he went through. But all of that was so that you and I could live today and worship him in relative peace for the most part. You know, a lot of people have their own trials and struggles. And many of us do today. It's wild, really. It's like it doesn't really matter if you're 25, 35, 45, 55, or 65. Everybody seems to share a similar experience in the little season. You know, there's a time where you thought you knew a thing or two, and then there's a falling away, and then you come back to it somehow. It's almost like you look for answers in other corners of the world. You don't find them, so you return back to the place where it all began. That's what's wild to me, trying to figure out where all these places are. Like, it almost kind of matters, but in a way it kind of don't matter. But when they had heard the king, they departed, and lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them till it came and stood over the young child as it was. And then when they departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Go to Egypt. When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night and departed into Egypt. The only reason they would take him there is because he looks like them. Now, what color or whatever they look like, it's not really relevant at this moment, or it'd be in here. Now, you can figure out what Egypt looks like if you go back through the scripture. That's not the point of this study for this evening. So we're going to leave the whole race debate out of this whole thing. It hasn't been brought up in scripture, so we shouldn't bring it up either. But it's one of those things that we get caught up in. That's why I bring it up. And was there until the death of Herod. They were there until Herod died, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken of the Lord by the prophet, saying, Out of Egypt have I called my son. Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceeding wroth, and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem, and in all the coast thereof, from 2 years old and under, according to the time he had diligently inquired of men. I'm going to show you why this is so important to understand here. I'm just going to give you an example here. Herod went out and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem and in all the coast thereof. All right. Just for the sake of humoring me for a moment, let's just say Bethlehem is over here in Mississippi and Alabama and Georgia and Florida, maybe even a little bit in Florida. We're over here. They're over here in this area. And what ends up happening, this whole area from, say, we're going to go all the way down here. We'll stop here at Corpus Christi. We won't make it too bad. From Corpus Christi up here into Kansas, around into Missouri, and into Kentucky, and into Washington, and into Maryland, and then to North Carolina, and back down into Georgia, then into Alabama, and then into Mississippi and Tennessee and Kentucky in the middle, Arkansas in the middle. He sent people out here to kill all these kids, all these people's children. Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked by the wise men from the east, he was so mad that he set forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem and all the coast thereof, from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men. Now, if we're right over here, if we're not too crazy, and this is Egypt over here, if this was originally Egypt in this area somehow, there's a reason it's all burned up today. It's all just kind of melted. Of course, some of this burning up today isn't all God. Some of it is man today. But man, look at this. It's just wild to look at and see at how melted and scarred up and burned up all this stuff is. It's just shattered and just broken up, destroyed. All the way down. Wow. What's wrong with these people? What did they do? They didn't do anything. Oh, golly, can't act right. we got these people over all this area. Everybody's doing pretty good, and then you got this group over here that just they just cannot get right. It's like Sodom and Gomorrah or something. You know, they just can't get right. Their behavior just cannot behave. That's a small little sliver down there. It's kind of funny in a way, but daggone, look at all that. That is a lot of can't act right there. That's what that is. This is just cannot behave at all. No matter what you do to them, you starve them out, they're going to still rape their own young and their own children. They're going to still murder each other. They're going to still misbehave. You could. It's not funny. It's not funny, but it's a way of like reconciling with the idiocy of certain things. It's understanding that this wasn't no small number of people. I mean, there's a reason it's not telling you how many kids exactly got killed. I mean, that would be why do you need to know that? That wouldn't be important to you in any way to know how many children suffered as a result of that. Good to see you, Brother John Fry. Good to see you. See, Brother Mad Pax is in the house as well. I think I said hey to him earlier, but just in case. Let's see. All I'm trying to tell you is that it's that regardless of what plane of air or place on earth, it's if you use the direction that you're given, they kind of work. You know, it still kind of works. out in the same manner. You know, you still can kind of see a little bit of some things, but you'll get lost on some of these places. But that's what I think about when I see those deserts. It just can't act right, you know. But wow, it's just like all the 2-year-olds and under. And then when that was fulfilled, that which was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet, saying, in Ramah, there a voice heard, lamentation and weeping and great mourning. Rachel weeping for her children. And who were her children? Who were Rachel's children? That was Benjamin and Joseph. Weeping for her children. Man, it's really a sad thing to think about all the kids that would have died during that moment, that time, and how bad life would have been. But somehow we haven't even made it to tribulation yet. And yet today's people compare themselves to that time period. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, how could tribulation not have happened yet? These people were the most awful people to ever live on earth. That's why the tribulation was during their time. It's why their end had to happen. But it is terrible because we overlooked that the fact that there are similar things to this happening and to this very day. They're doing it every day, as if they can, every day that they can get away with it. They're doing it. They're killing each other and genociding one another and hurting each other and taking over this and taking over that. And they do it in the name of a God that's represented in this scripture, but not in the name of truth. But when all of that was fulfilled, that which was spoken by the prophet, saying, in Ramah was there a voice heard, lamentation and weeping and great mourning. Rachel weeping for her children and would not be comforted because they are not. I mean, they're dead. But when Herod was dead, behold, an angel of the Lord. There's that angel of the Lord again. You know, that angel that always speaks on behalf of God. Callie, chill out. In a dream to Joseph in Egypt. That angel just cannot leave Joseph alone. I mean, Joseph probably is hard-headed, if I'm being honest. You know, he probably needs God to come to him in a dream. It's kind of like sharing this information about the season that we're in with certain people, and then they brush it off, and then months later or weeks later they come to me and say, hey, look what I figured out. And they go, oh yeah, that's awesome, that's amazing. That's amazing. I'm glad that you finally figured that out. That's awesome. You know, it doesn't matter to me about the credit so much as it matters that they figured it out. That's what's important. The truth and getting that truth out there. But man, this was a terrible time. But Joseph had to be approached by this angel for the third time in Egypt, saying, arise and take the young child and his mother and go into the land of Israel, for they are dead which sought the young child's life. And he arose and took the young child and his mother and came into the land of Israel. And when he heard that Archelaus did reign in Judea in the room of his father Herod, he was afraid to go hither or thither, notwithstanding being warned of God in a dream. He turned aside into the parts of Galilee. He said, don't worry, you know. He was afraid to go that way, being warned of God in a dream. Be careful, be wary, he said, and he came and dwelt in a city called Nazareth, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophets. He shall be called a Nazarene. And they did. They called him a Nazarene. So isn't that Fellow from Nazareth. That's what that is. But in those days, John the Baptist preaching in the wilderness of Judea and saying, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Judea, John the Baptist, names, words we need to recognize and pick up on, and we will in the next episode here. I'm going to bring this thing back up over here, and I'm gonna kind of go over some stuff before we move forward with that. I didn't realize we moved through that lesson so fast, or that episode of that, or not that episode, but that chapter so fast. Maybe it's not quite as long as that other one. It's probably what it was. I didn't have as much to say and talk about. It's probably my fault. Let's get back to where we were. Let's get back to the world map. There's some people in our community that don't know what this is. In case you're new to this is what I call the world map, but it's the moon map. And essentially it is this. What you're looking at here, well, you'd have to invert it, flip it, but this is a picture of the moon. That's all this is. This is a full moon picture. Well, that picture is also this picture. It's the same picture. It's the same thing I'm showing you here. So when we're going over this is the moon map. Let's see. Let's make another layer. I don't want to draw on that. And like I said, come on now, stand up on me. Like I said, if you take this thing and you go, if reverse everything they tell you, you've got the land of Canaan, and then you got the land of Israel, where Jerusalem is, but they're not the whole land of the United States. Like that whole region, that whole area, the way it would kind of work is like, I think Babylon was over here. I think Jerusalem was over here. Egypt was over here. Wow, that's weird. That's weird. That looks like a paw, like a tiger's paw or a bear paw or whatever. Something like that. That's if this narrative is right. If we're right about this, as far as these lands over here in the West being the lands from the Bible. But now if we're wrong, then all we got to do is flip this around, put us back over here where they say they're at today. Then you would have Egypt here, Israel here, and Babylon was somewhere out this way or either this way. No one really knows exactly today, but I think, or maybe it was over here. Let's go back. Yeah. So I think it was somewhere in this region. Yeah, Babylon, right? And so you have Israel, Egypt, Babylon. And then to the east, you have the Russians and the Chinese and India. The three wise men. That's your three wise men. 1, 2, 3. Chinese, Russian, India. That's the reason they were allowed to exist and remain themselves through, basically, for the most part, throughout the millennial kingdom, in my opinion. I mean, that's the only thing that really makes sense to me. When we were going through these names and talking about some of these people, you can move them in this fashion, but your lines are going to, actually, you need to make this a lot smaller. Go back. Your lines are going to be like this to get you where they're going. You know, you'll end up reading that Bible and you'll end up being isolated to a small region of the earth. You get isolated to that little bit of area right there. You know, that's about it. I mean, you'll get a little bit of Africa and whatnot, but they're not going to tell you it goes this way. It's going like this. They're not telling you it's going that way. Then you got the Sahara, the Western Sahara, and all that. And then you got the Sahara Desert where they can't act right. At one point they couldn't act right, apparently. This is where Japheth, I believe, dwelled, was in these areas right here. I think you had these people that dwelled outside of the kingdom, but yet remained. Yeah, I don't know how they remained, but they did, apparently. You have the Australian area down here, but all that is a land taken over by these people. These people went here and said, "Oh, we're taking that." Then they went, and then they kind of left all this out here to just do whatever you wanted. Y'all can do whatever out there. They basically leave that area alone. They're afraid of it for some reason. For some reason, no one can go to this area right here in the center of the world. You have Greenland right here. And then but in the center, they'll say there's nothing there. Don't even look there. And if you look on Google Earth, you're going to see these little like lines. And those lines are like where they didn't actually cover up a spot. And you can kind of see some of this stuff on Google Earth, but it's hard to see through the line. You don't really know what you're looking at. At least I don't know exactly what I'm looking at. Then you have this region over here, Canada, and the Americas. I mean, what about all this land and all this area here? We're not reading about that in the Bible, are we? Why aren't we reading about that in the Bible? And why is that Brazil? And why is this America? Why call it these names? I know a lot of people have different opinions on this, and I've had several different opinions, and one of them is that the actual original Babylon would have been in this region somewhere. I don't have any just finite proof on that yet, but I'm working on that end. But what's amazing, though, you look at this stuff and you can kind of see, if you spread it out and you take away what they're telling you all these places are, it's almost like God's people had this little bit of this little bitty area of the world. And if that's the case, either that or it's an even smaller area, this little bitty area of the world. It's one of those two realities here. For some reason, I'm inclined to believe that this is the truth and this is the lie. It makes more sense to me navigating the map in this way. The issue is this with this map, and this is what is going to turn people away from it. It's places like this. What is that? What is this place? And if you are in the Little Season community, you know that there's a wonderful lady named Madeline that's done a video on this, and she's calling it the land of Jesus. Well, I'm calling it the Lemuria only because I believe that could be where the land of Mu is. I don't necessarily know that that's where Jesus dwells. If anything, I would be more inclined to believe that that's where certain elites live, like families of people and names that you don't know. You don't know anything about them, but that's a large body of land. Look how big this circle is compared to the United States. I mean, that's a large area of land that they're hiding from the public. You cannot find this on a map. You go to this Google Earth and you come over here and you leave outside of, well, you can't write on this, but you get out here and there's nothing. They just tell you there's nothing out here. There's just a big, wide open Pacific Ocean. And I'm not trying to make you dizzy, but that's what they tell you. This is what you're given in society. But yet there is a landmass out here. And no, it's not underwater. It's a landmass that you could dwell on. You could live there. And I'm not positive, but I have a feeling that's where a lot of the prominent members of within the upper echelon of society end up living is there. Like your royal elites, like your secret bloodline type people or whatever. I don't know what this land area is out here. It could be Atlantis. I'm not exactly sure. But what's interesting is you have all this other land over here. Let me pull it back up. All of this land here is way more land in that area. Actually, it's pretty close to the same. It is. It's almost close to the same. It's almost like they divided the world in half. Let's go back. It's kind of like they did that right there. You can have that half and I'll take that half. Where did that come from? Oh, that's on. No. That's weird. I hope I didn't stop streaming. But anyhow, you have this, it's almost like there's this line that divides us from the other side over there. But this is what I look at. This is what is going through my head as I'm imagining this in the Bible. As I'm reading this, is what I'm seeing. I'm saying, if I look at this is the center right here. The center, the north. East is that way. That puts me over here where the Russians, Chinese, and India are. And then what was over here? I think this area here was once closer to over here, is what I think. But more importantly, we'd have to really zoom in on this thing to see it. You have the where the North America is. You have the land of Canaan, and then I think you had either Jerusalem, then you had potentially Babylon, and then Egypt over here, kind of thing. But at the same time, over here you would have Rome has basically conquered all of these lands. And when I say Rome has conquered all these lands, this is what Rome has conquered all these lands. Oh, keep dropping this. But yeah, so what I'm trying to say is that Rome had conquered everything. It wasn't Rome that conquered. Well, it was kind of. I guess it was kind of Rome that conquered the whole world. Realistically, what it was, well, I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole either. The Alexander the Great conquered all this. This entire world was conquered by Alexander the Great. Let's just go that way. But this part was still left not really under full authority of that system that he had created with Alexandria, within the walls of Alexandria. What ends up happening, you got whatever's going on in Rome is they're pushing it into these areas right here. They're trying to establish the idea of all roads lead to Rome right here. Eventually, once all roads lead to Rome, then you can circle the north with all nations. I mean, that's how you would surround them. That's how you would. I mean, that's how you would win in like a war game or something. But essentially, that's how they do it. That's how all of this ends up. They end up encroaching on this, but they don't make it. Jesus comes and basically judges the world before they ever really do anything in this northern area. They don't get to go up there. For some reason, they're isolated from it. And during the time of Jesus, I would have to say that they quite possibly knew about this place here, just the same as they knew about this place here, Australia. I don't know. I can't say 100% if they knew about this little area out here before or after the flood. I mean, this is all post flood though. But and like I said before, there's a reason I have these rings around this area right here. It's because of whatever is happening in our north with this magnetic field. This magnetic field is coming out and it's doing this. It's creating a bubble around us. It's a bubble of energy, like a Coriolis effect. And the higher you go and around the edges of this, and the further away you go from the center point of this source, which is the Rupus Nigra mountain or whatever it is in the North Pole here today, whatever's in the north there, the higher you go up versus around, it gets cooler. It's what causes the oxygen to freeze up that high. It's why we can't go but so far high. It's why we have to have oxygen tanks. If you get in an airplane, you go too high, you have to have oxygen tank to breathe because it's cold up there. Like you have to have like a suit on. You'll freeze to death the higher you go. It's like a containment. It's like a bubble that's containing us within this area. The further out you go, the colder it gets. It's why I don't think this ice wall is a natural thing. Like I don't think it was there before. I don't think it was there before Jesus. Like I think it was. I don't think it was ever there. I don't think there was ever an ice wall. Really, I think there was land that went around. I think there was a lot of land that went around this thing. The way this thing would have looked, though, before the flood, it would have been shaped like this. You would have had the north there. That would have been the center. And you would have had 4 rivers running through it like this. And as you can see, we only really take up 1/4 of the earth. There's your dividing line. There's your other line. You've got 1/4 of the earth. But at one point, there was land everywhere. In all corners of the earth, there was land. This land here gets destroyed. Let's see. Let me get ahead of myself. I think it does. I think it gets destroyed in tribulation. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is that there was a time when people were in the Bible potentially living out here. People we're reading about. Nothing is exactly where we think it is, nor am I right about what I'm saying about all this stuff here. It's just helped me visualize it, mapping it out on this just singled out little area. But if you include all this land over here, you're in trouble. Where are your maps of this land? We need to see these maps. When we find these maps, then we can say what's going on out there. Right now, we're under the mindset that no one's ever explored out there. But post-flood, we can't get out there, but pre-flood, they did. Pre-flood, the maps look like, you've seen those maps that look like this for land masses in the river, and they tell you that's just the North Pole, right? That's just those. They tell you that that's this right here. These 4 islands right here. And I don't think it is. I think those maps are actually showing you what the earth used to look like. And I think it was shaped like that. And I think there was a giant tree in the middle. And I think there were 12 other trees that went around this thing. That's how this thing worked. I don't think we've always been isolated to just this region. However, after the flood, what happens is this is the only area they can reach for some reason. For whatever reason, they cannot go beyond these rings that I've drawn here. For whatever reason, and only God can tell you that. Besides us going up there to the North Pole and seeing what's going on there. But for whatever reason, after the flood, they can no longer exceed this ring. They can't go out of it for some reason. They're bound to this area. Now, if you remember in our Jasher series, what ends up happening is when the three sons of Noah separate after the flood, they're given three parts of the world, the north, the middle, and the south. It's divided. Ham gets the south. Ham gets the south, Shem gets the middle, and Japheth gets the north. Well, we're basing that off of this being the north. This area right here. That's too big. Let me make that smaller. Yeah, we're basing it off of that being the north, but from their mind, coming out of the flood, coming into a post-apocalyptic world, once they were on water for a whole year, the whole world had been flooded. When that boat, the ark, lands on the ground, if you had been alive when the world was once this, if you had been alive when the world was once this right here, you would have landed, say, let's just say for the sake of political correctness, that somehow you ended up landing right around, we'll say around this region. Okay, well, you've landed here. Now, there aren't any road signs. There aren't any TVs. There's no directions telling you where to go. You've landed here and you're trying to survive. You and your family and all these animals on this ark. You let them off the ark, and then all your sons go out into the world. Well, they end up going out. If this is right, then you'd end up going out this way, and then this way. And then these sons would go here, and these sons would go here, and these sons would go here. Y'all go take over this. We'll go take over this. You go take over this. Now, here's what's ends up happening is when these sons go out into the world and start finding buildings, old ruins, things that were made by men that survived the flood somehow, whether it was buried and they had to uncover it or what, it doesn't really matter. They find this stuff and they claim it. They build what on top or rebuild what's there. And when they're doing this, or as these three sons are doing this from this area, going out into the world, they don't know that all of this land here is now gone. Let me make this bigger. They don't realize that it's not that this land is gone. They don't realize they can't get there. So what I'm saying is, just for the sake of humor in the Rev, let's say Egypt, actual biblical Egypt, is right here. Let's say that region is where Egypt is. You kind of read stories, you remember it, because remember, the boys were not like little kids. They weren't like 20-year-olds that survived a flood. They were like 100 and so years old by the time the flood happened. They knew about the world they had come from, but they didn't know the world they landed in. And so when the world dried up and they could land and they're back on the earth again, they don't realize that they cannot get to the other half of the world and that most of the world had been destroyed. So let's just say they end up in an area right here. We call it Egypt today because they did. They were calling it Egypt, and the reason they were calling it Egypt is because whatever they found there after the flood looked a lot like the Egypt they remembered from before the flood. And so they would call that place Egypt. Now, in the Bible, we're going to read about this place is called Egypt, and now it's here. But there could have been a time where, what I'm saying is that there could have been a time where the actual or original Egypt was in a totally different place. Now you have 3 sons that are going out into the world, and let's say one of them ends up over here. Let's make this smaller. One of the sons ends up over here. And he says, oh, wow, look at all these temples and things. Look at all this stuff. This was like Egypt. He names this place Egypt. Now you will have, years later, it's not like they never named that place Egypt, or no one ever named it Egypt. It was named that at some point. It was called that at some point. So at some point in time, there will be relics. There will be evidence that shows that place was once Egypt, and we find it in like burial tombs, and there's a sphinx in the Grand Canyon in that area. It's really interesting how there's actually more Egyptian evidence in America than there are in actual Egypt today. Actual Egypt today is this thriving, bustling little area right here by this fake Nile River. It's not just, I don't know that this is a big river to us. Yes, I know. But I don't think it's a big river in the sense of the rivers that I'm thinking about in the beginning, with the 4 rivers. You would have new rivers that would come up. These are all new rivers, remnants of the old world, the ways things used to be, like kind of like a memory in a way, but not an exact thing. You have Egypt here, and they say Israel is there, and if that's the case, how do you wander around this area for 40 years? I mean, what do you think they did? Do you think they just kept crossing back and forth over this river right here for 40 generations? You think that no one in China and Russia would have told them where they were and sent them back? I mean, China and Russia existed. Those places existed. I'm not saying they called it Russia or China or India. I'm saying the people of this area existed during this time. During the time of the Israelites, these people would have existed. They would have been here. They were there during the Israelites' time. And if the Israelites left out of Egypt, you don't think anybody in India would have said, hey, brother, you're in the wrong place. You're in India. You need to go up that way. Just kind of go, a little bit northeast, cross over those mountains or go around them or whatever, and you'll be there. To come over this way, you go into the Congo, the harshest areas or the most, green areas of Africa. Then you have your Sahara Desert. It's a desert. Then you have South Africa. I mean, it's pretty nice, actually. South Africa, it's a lot like the U.S. over there, or any place in the U.K., I imagine. But the point is, it doesn't make sense if they got lost here. But if they left this place or this region, and then they ended up over here in this region, Now that's a big traveling. That's a lot to travel. That's a long haul. That's a good ways to be lost, I suppose. It's still, that's 40 years of traveling around, but you'd be surprised at how long you can be on the road and not even realize you've been out here traveling around for 4 years now or whatever. Time flies when you're having fun, so to speak, and when you're moving around from place to place trying to survive. I mean, it doesn't talk about Russians or Chinese or Indian people, but it does talk about Asians and Persians and other people of that nature. You got to learn how to plug these names into these places and where these people come from to really isolate this thing and understand where everything is and where we're at and how we fit into it. I wish they wouldn't lie to us about all this stuff. It'd make it so much simpler. You know, if we were all plumbers, we wouldn't need any more plumbers. We'd all just know how to do it. We could just get in there and get it done. Where's all this land though? Like, why won't they let us go out there? Why don't we build a machine that can fly without having to refuel? It flies on some type of perpetual energy, and we just leave. But if you were going to leave the United States, for example, this is why I know this is never going to happen. If you're in the United States, you're here, and if you really wanted to go to Antarctica, then you're really only going to go this area right here. That's about all you're going to go. They may let you see this little bit of land right here. They may let you do that, but it's frozen though, so you don't have to worry about actually knowing what you're seeing. This is frozen. This is all ice. This they tell you that this is where little Antarctica is. This is where they get the image of Antarctica from, like the one you see on the globe. It's this little area right here. So you'll get to see that, but what'll happen is if you want to go to these lands, we got to cross the whole Pacific Ocean. I think that's right. Or no, that's the Atlantic Ocean. I'm sorry. Yeah, there it is. There's the Pacific over here. We have to cross the actual Atlantic. And we have to go way out here. And then we have to get over the ice wall and then make camp over here. And then we can travel all through all these lands. We can get out there and we can do it, guys. We just need to get together, build a device, build a machine, and just start doing this thing. So anyhow, all I'm doing here with all of this is I'm just kind of giving you an understanding of where I'm coming from with these maps and these people we're talking about and going over in this book. I hope y'all can appreciate the scribble scrabble on the little map there, but I can show you we can kind of use the same philosophy of thought with following these places and moving around and this and that. You can kind of follow along with it if you end up with if you still use their map, you can still kind of follow along with things. You just got to turn it upside down. That's all you really got to do with it. It's really interesting how they thrown it right there in our face, thinking we were just too dumb to realize it. And the reality is we were, or at least we have been for a long time for some of us. But some of us end up turning on the YouTube and someone crazy like the Rev is talking about something different and they stop and listen. That's one of my main issues with this little season is that people don't want to listen. People always want to tell you a thing or two. And the thing is, every one of us have listened long enough. It's like, I'm tired of listening to your BS. I'm tired of listening to you try to convince me I come from a monkey. Like, I didn't come from a monkey. I know I can't beat that into your head, but I did not come from a monkey. I know a lot of people that did, apparently. At least they believe they did. You know, maybe their monkey parents came from the other side of the world. If that's where they came from, on that other side of that line. I hope you guys can understand where I'm coming from with some of that, and I really thought I was going to have a lot more to go over and discuss, and I think me stepping away from chat and kind of just lingering on into this thing, I've been able to show you guys my thought process on some of this stuff and how I kind of filtered through some of it. I wanted you really just to see what I was seeing, and I'm not sure if those images are real or not. I mean, that's Google Earth. It's why my map has a lot more green in it. I think there's a lot more of the world that's within our little area that's actually inhabitable, that you could just go live there off grid, and it would take someone flying over to really find you. I don't think that nearly as many places in the earth have been inhabited as much as they think they have. But yet there are people on all parts of the world and all corners of it. You know, it's not like there's no one here and no one there. It's just there's no one here and there that's everywhere. You know, just like in America, there are places that haven't been mapped yet here in America. But yet we'll cling to the belief that these satellites have taken a picture of every piece of the land that's out there on the earth. I don't believe that to be the case. I don't believe these satellites have done that. I believe they've hired artists to come out here and paint these things and make a lot of the stuff look real. Even our states in the United States, I think everything is bigger and or smaller than what we think it is or what we've been told it is. Understanding where some of these places are and where we're coming from, you kind of have to understand where these people are coming from. And you wouldn't know that you weren't able to get out there to all of the world if you knew that there was all of the world at one time. And now you're lost in it. You would just think, oh, this looks like this place, and you would name it this. Or maybe you think it is that place. What I'm saying is you have 3 different brothers doing all this naming of these places. 3 different brothers that are out here discovering the world again and finding stuff and making it their own and claiming it and fighting over it and warring with each other over territory and resources, people. Why does it matter about the people? Well, you could enslave these people and you could take these words out of context and you can justify your actions with it. And that's a lot of what happens. It's like the people of Nimrod, you know, the children of Cush and Ham, the Hamites. After Nimrod was killed, Esau kills Nimrod, and then the sons of Japheth go down there and cut him up and chop him up and scatter him all over the world, to all corners of the world, they said. Well, at the same time, they kill him, and they war with his sons, like all the sons of Nimrod and all the people of Nimrod, like his whole family, and then they enslave all of the line of Nimrod. Anyone who come from Nimrod's seed was made slaves to the line of Japheth. Japheth could not stand that dude. But that dude was in charge of the world for about 240 years, but that's only because of those garments that he had that made him powerful and strong. It's almost like putting on a suit and tie, how it gives you this sense of purpose, this sense of pride and responsibility, this ability to do certain things that maybe you weren't able to do, or say things now that you couldn't say before. You wore these garments and they gave him that power and that strength. You can break this thing down metaphorically or make it literal. As long as you're honest about what you're reading and talking about, it's going to deliver the same truth. And that's that all of this leads us to one door. But it's all in here, every line in it. verse 7, then Herod, when he had privately called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared. And then he sent them to Bethlehem. He said, when we read that, we know what they're talking about. We know where they're coming from. It's important to really know the layout of the land, especially if the world just continues to going on. I mean, say, for example, the world ends with Jesus tomorrow, and yet somehow we're all still here in some way or another. I mean, but yet the world is destroyed and made new in some form. You need to know the layout of the land, the lay of the land, so you can know where everybody is, so you can go to everyone. It's not like everybody's going to be held up in this singular little town or city called Jerusalem while all the rest of the world is just out there empty. It's just that there's only, I don't know, it's like it just doesn't make sense to me to think of it like that. But that the whole world's going to just be just this big, empty, vast plain with nothing. And then everybody lives happily ever after in this kingdom. I mean, it's nice that we have it, that we have that opportunity waiting for us, no doubt. I'm saying that there's a lot more to understand in what's really going to happen and what's really going on than kind of what they give you in schools and what they give you in like the Sunday service over at like your Calvary, whatever church, this church or that church. It's not like they're actually delivering you the truth. They're just kind of giving you the sprinkles that are on top. This guy, that guy over here, this and that happened. The end. We're all saved. Just skip to the good part type thing. It's a weird anomaly of thought that's kind of pried its way into the fabric of human nature. Anyhow, that's pretty much all I had for this evening. I think I'm gonna have to cut this short, you guys. It looks like all my thought processing material is kind of just fading away in the end zone. Unless you guys have questions you would like to ask and present, I can maybe we can kind of go over that. Let's go back up here through chat and see what everybody's had to say. We do have 30 minutes left if we want to continue going, but I do also know it's late in the evening as well. Let's see. Maybe Jesus is Lord 70 AD says, I haven't researched it much, but what if is the land of east of Eden? That's the direction they were sent, correct? Yes, that is correct. And then Christy says, or the dome would have to cause a kaleidoscope effect to have more sunlight out there. Yeah, I think it kind of does, actually. Maybe all of that is all the new earth spoken about, which is actually paradise, aka the Garden of Eden, and it's guarded by the cherubim, which you have to go through the ice wall first. Spitballing here. All right, that's a good question, actually. I like that you had mentioned that, brother. Jesus is Lord. But yeah, actually, I like that idea. The thought that could be the new lands, that could be the new world, that the ice wall melts and then all of us that remain somehow live throughout the end of this age. We end up out there in the Garden of Eden. Maybe that is where the Garden of Eden is. Maybe there are people out there. But it's just as possible and just as likely. Hey, Brother Val, good to see you, brother. Miss Joyful One as well. She says, thank you for hosting us for the truth and fellowship. Abiding everyone hope and grace, beloved souls. I love Miss Joyful One. She's a blessing. You got Miss Dina in the house as well. She says hi. Val says, Allison M. prayers worked. My little kitten is good now. That's amazing. See, prayers do work, and I do believe that wholeheartedly. But yeah, it's amazing thought. It's an amazing thing to speculate on and think about it. That could be where the new world is. But it's also interesting to think about that. What if there are people over there just like us, just as deceived as we are, living in their own little communities and civilizations? They have their own America's Got Talent going on certain nights of the week or whatever. It's really impossible to know, because at the end of the day, none of us can honestly say we've traveled out there to see. We can't. I mean, we can't get past the ice wall for some reason. I don't know. But them boys on what's that, Jeranism or whatever, I think they went out there on the, it was like some kind of like last hoorah or whatever. They went down there and they proved the earth was a globe, as they took their shirts off and stuff, but yet they couldn't get past it. They just couldn't get to the other side of it to show us what was on the other side for some reason. But I don't know why they don't just cross over there, since they can go down there and take their shirts off and blow nothing. They don't even blow cold breath. I mean, they don't even blow breath out of their mouth whenever they were talking. It's pretty wild what all they went through. Anyways, what all they did, it's pretty wild what they went through, what all they did to try to keep the lie alive, the earth, the ball earth. It's pretty funny when you really sit here and break down what all is going on. A lot of this stuff is just people playing with the world, just playing games. I claim this and I'm going to name it this and I'm going to call it this. I grew up with a town not far from me that's called one thing, and I remember it being another thing. And they even had, I think their school even changed, like what they do or whatever, what they have at their school. It's always a whatever, because at the end of the day, certain things don't matter. It's like dwelling into timeless thoughts of this crazy nonsense or that crazy nonsense. None of that really matters. What matters, I guess, is what we're doing tonight, hanging out with each other. Val says, Chris T, I'm speechless. I play with him for like half an hour. Zero lethargy. Zero sneezing. He is rocking. Man, what a blessing, Brother Val. That's awesome. I'm not really a cat person, but my son is. He has his own little cat. He's taking him up there. He lives with them up there in College World now. Miss Allison says, that Val, that's for sure. Abba's showing off for a little bit, cause that kid and Croup always lasts a long time. So yeah, he's wonderful. See, that's what happens when you pray and you trust in the Lord, and also it takes you doing the right things too. It's like I told a customer today, they had their line was backed up, and I had cleared it out and unclogged it and had it nice and going. And I end up running a camera down there, and I said, oh man, this looks great. And then I looked away from the camera for a moment, looked down, everything looks great. I got all the way to the tap. I said, oh yeah, their line is beautiful. I said, this is beautiful. You got a beautiful line. It is nice and clear. I started rolling that camera out and pulling it out of that line, and I noticed I missed something. Apparently, I looked away for just a split second, too long. Because when I pulled that camera out, I saw a big glob of like grease with like these little roots sticking out of it. And I was like, oh man, this dude has a root infesting his sewer line. And so all their human waste is catching at that root system right there and causing them to back up. And I sat there and tried to chop that thing out and bust all that up and clear it out, but we're going to have to dig it down, and we're going to have to dig down 4 foot, 3 foot away from the clean out. So we're going to have a 4 foot by 3 foot hole, probably 2 foot wide deep, something like that. We have to dig down and cut this root out, because that root will just sit there and clog everything up. We'll have to fix this pipe. But I had to tell him, I said, in the meantime, until between now and the time I get back over here, this is what you're going to have to do. You have to do things this way. Otherwise, y'all are going to have to pay for me to come back out here, type of thing. And you may not necessarily want to do that. So do it the way I'm telling you, and that's going to be better for you. Also, I'm kind of lazy. I don't want to get up and come out here and do this, but I do it because it's how I pay my bills. It's my bread and butter, so to speak. And then this here, what I'm doing is also my bread and butter. I feel like this is where the real bread and butter comes from. It's in the Bible. It's in the scripture. It's hanging out with people like Brother Tyler in Kingdom Within. He says, I haven't been watching any YouTube much, but when I get a chance to settle down, I check you out when I see you live. That's amazing, Brother Tyler. I'm glad you're here. Thank you. Thank you. He says, stay consistent. You're on your way. 100. Jesus is Lord says, Kingdom Within, glad you had time to join us, Brother Tyler. It's been a blessing. It surely has. Let's see, what are we laughing about? It has house peeing skills. Oh wow. Yeah, so you know that your pet is doing good when it has house peeing skills. Until if it's if they're not getting in trouble or getting into something, something's wrong. Especially like mine will get real quiet. But right now, normally here recently, I guess every night I do these streams, they lay up. Mine lay here on the. They just kind of lay there the whole time I'm streaming. I don't make them lay there necessarily, but they kind of just do. Sometimes I'll tell them to get up there because they'll get around, pitter pattering around me, and I can't really hear because my floors are wood. And they'll walk around, but they'll come over here and try to get in my lap sometimes. I love my animals now. Don't get me wrong. I think animals are important to us. I don't know why they're here exactly, but they are. They're here for a reason, and I don't know why God put everything out here, but he does. He does everything he does. He does it for a reason, and it's a wonderful, beautiful thing that he's done for us. This allowed us to survive all throughout all the history and all the tribulations and all the trials and resets. I mean, talking with Brother Barry today, he was explaining to me that he had heard that, about all these different resets. And I said, yeah, we just went over that in Jasher. There were several resets. You had the reset of the flood. You had and even before the reset, you might have had several minor resets. I mean, how many years does it take to rebuild from destruction? At one point before the flood, there was a 500-year period where God was like really hammering the people of the world. Like he was really going after it, trying to get them to repent. With each devastating event, how long do you think it really took men of that stature and capability, pre-flood people, to rebuild whatever God destroyed? And they would constantly do this. So I'm saying that there were many resets. You had like major resets, and then you had like minor resets. Like Sodom and Gomorrah, you could call that a minor reset. But like the tribulation, though, or actually, let's go back to Nimrod. Nimrod dying, and then that kingdom getting turned over to the Japhites. It's almost like that also is another reset. It's you're destroying one way to bring in another way. Jesus coming in with the tribulation and all of that, with the bringing in the millennial kingdom, the devastation before the millennial kingdom, you have another reset. Then you have the loosing of Satan. You have another reset. There are several events and several things that take place throughout time. And every time this happens, you have an opportunity to rediscover something for the first or even the second time. And they rediscovered the world many times over and over and over. It's also why you have evidence of every race and culture almost on every piece of land throughout the world. People are moving around lost because they don't know where they're at. They don't know where they're at because no one wants to tell them, and no one wants to tell them because they don't know themselves. They don't know where they're at. They're just here trying to take it over, trying to control you and manipulate you and waste your time, you know. It's really crazy that what's going on and how all this stuff is kind of unfolded in this little this little season, this time of great deception. This, to me, it's a time of discovery, though. It's a time of opportunity. It's a time of reflection and repentance. It's a time to say I love you to the ones that you know you should say it to. It's a time for bringing everyone together in unity and thought. It's a time to realize that you're not alone in the world, Brother Barry, Brother Kingdom Within, Brother Chris T, Miss Joyful One, and Kim M, Miss Trish Clark, Brother Scott Free. You're not alone in here, in this. None of us are. Even if you turn the rev off, you're still not alone. You have God with you. You have God with us. Jesus the Christ could never really be killed, no matter how hard they tried. They hung him on a cross, they crucified him, they put him in a tomb, and he came up out of that like it wasn't no big deal. And then he goes off to prepare for the end of their days, their final judgment. He tells his people that he is going to judge the people. The people that will be judged will be the ones that pierced Jesus. And then he does. He comes back and he rules over them with that rod of iron. And, you know, we can learn all this through Scripture if we just slowed down sometimes and paid attention to what it's telling us. The joyful thing is that there's some of you guys I benefit from, because sometimes I have a lack of patience. So it's nice seeing certain content creators spitting this information out there left and right, because they pick it up so fast and so quick. It's why I think and lean on the the notion that I'm just a dumb old plumber. You know, I don't really know that much. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really even matter what I know and don't know. What matters is, did Rev read Matthew chapter 2 correctly or not? Did we interpret the understanding of that the way it was meant for me to understand it? And yeah, maybe I went a little deep and a little far out there on some things, and maybe we speculated a time or two. But ultimately, we came to an understanding that it wasn't a time of pleasure. It was a time of, like, it was very bad in the world. Let's put it that way. Like, you cannot imagine all the children in Europe 2 and under being unalived. You could just not imagine today all the children of South America under the age of 2 being unalived. You just, all these kids, you just could not imagine that today. And that's not even the worst of what society was like. That's not even the worst of it. If any one figure throughout time really matches the Antichrist, I'd have to say it was Nero. I mean, it's almost far pressed to say that. It's crazy, but this man literally forced another man to pretend to be his wife, and did so through castration. Just kind of seems more like it, but at the same time, we'll look at this today and go, well, I've seen movies that are worse than that. And I go, yeah, well, that's a movie. But then at the same time, we know that there are people, even in those movies, that are doing this stuff in real life. It's just as bad. You know, you've got and no offense to the French audience, but isn't there, I think, like, yeah, their whole leadership is man and man. One of them pretends to be a woman. That whole Brigitte thing, not trying to get too politically involved in all that. I'm trying to stay as far away from that within this discussion as I can. But what I'm saying is that people do weird stuff like that all the time nowadays, like it ain't no big deal. But back then, it kind of would have been. It would have been a weird thing. I mean, why else? Why? I mean, it wasn't the Maccabean revolts. Why were they rebelling, and why were people unrestful? It's because of the chaos that these rulers of this Roman Empire were enacting on all these people. It's what they were implementing. I mean, they were wholeheartedly taking advantage of their power and authority. It's amazing looking back at it all. And to think that we got people doing this stuff today that they were doing back then that was unheard of or the unthinkable. And yet it goes on in behind closed doors in a lot of realms of society today. And we take that for granted sometimes when we think about how hard our lives are and what we're going through. And we don't even realize, there are grown people that have lived their entire lives never even seeing the sun. And it's wild to think about. It's an amazing thing to see some of these people overcome all that. They end up coming out into the world and they seem more righteous about things than any of us. It seems like when you watch their interviews and their other things like that. Yeah, and I'm Indian there, brother. Jesus is Lord. I'm just one of them old Indian fellas. I'm like Dr. Hugh Manuel. if you're Chinese. But no, he's just kidding there. I like this community. They laugh a lot and they play around and have a good time. And if you guys are new to the Truth Unfiltered, and if you guys are new to the little season, by all means, come back and hang out with us next time. Look, I'm planning on having Brother Grady on from Crypto Grady. I plan on having him on with me this Sunday. So if you guys enjoyed my conversations with other guests, then this will be the place to be. At least if I weren't live, this is where I would be hanging out with you guys, with whoever was live at the time. At least that's if I'm not working or doing anything else. But that's what I'll be doing Sunday. I'm planning on putting a show together. I've got a few things I want to kind of go over with them and discuss as far as what I'd like to talk about and whatnot. But with that said, we're going to wound this up and wrap this up. And, actually, no, I'm not going to divulge everything. I'm going to leave that. Nope, I almost spoiled something. I'm working on something else. Put it that way. You guys will like it, though, I think. There's someone else in mind that's going to come on the show as well. But, yeah, so I think it's going to be a good thing, what's going on within this community, what's happening within this little season. Whether Jesus physically comes or metaphorically returns, it's still up to us to lead the way and to live our lives according to his measures. And if we do that, and this world does continue to just carry on, then we'll leave it to righteous children and righteous grandchildren. And that's the goal. At least that's mine anyways. So it's important to me for my children to know the truth, even if society doesn't want them to know it. And that's why it's a blessing to see that I'm not alone in this. Chad is a perfect example of that. I'm not alone in this thought or these ways in this time. You guys make life in this season easier, so to speak. I know that there's always someone I can count on to lean on. You guys are really a great community, and I want you to know that I love you, and I love each and every one of you, and I care about each and every person that's here. I care about all of you guys. I know I can't communicate with everybody, though I'd love to, but, there's only so many hours in the day, and it's hard to have a 5-minute conversation with someone you've you've never really been around a whole lot. So my conversations turn out to be pretty lengthy when you do get in touch with me. It's just the way it is. But I know you guys are a blessing to this community, and I know others will see that and know that too whenever they read back their chat. What I say, I feel like is important to a degree, but what you guys say is important as well. That's why it doesn't matter what goes on behind the curtains or behind the cameras, as long as what we're putting out into the world are positive vibes. The world will move in a positive way, and I believe that. I believe change starts with you, just like Jesus did. In the same way, it started with him, because he was once the main you, you know. But change starts with you, starts with all of us, and we can be the bridge that ties all this stuff back together, or we can be the weapon that cuts it all down. It's up to us, really. It always has been, and that's the lesson to be learned. You guys are the best community on the planet. I love each and every one of you. It's been a joy. I've been sitting here just really talking, but honestly, just kind of reading chat, get lost in what you guys are saying there. But it's amazing to have you guys here with me, and I'm surprised you hung out with me this far and this long. But it's still a blessing either way. I love you guys. Thank you guys for being here, and I will see you guys Sunday with Brother Grady unless something has come up. But I will check with him, make sure, and if anything has changed, you guys will be the first to know about it. But until then, I love you guys. Thank you for being here. God bless. Take care. Please be sure to pray for those who need them, who have asked for the prayers, like Brother Tala and others within our community. Much love. Greetings, guys. We will see you next time.
Out on the porch with an open book, Rev lifts his eyes, takes a deeper look. Through the noise of this fleeting age, he's digging down past every page. He's walked the road of shattered dreams, felt the weight of silent screams, but the truth he found is burning bright, a torch he carries through the night. Whispers call from higher ground, in the quiet he hears the sound. Little seasoned shadows flee when he stands up on his knees. Rev the truth seeker calling through the dark, lighting up the silence with a holy spark. In this little season we'll stand side by side, truth unfiltered, saints won't hide. Beyond the lies, beyond this fight, we keep our lamps full, burning bright. Together we'll journey, come what may, till we see the King on that day. He's not chasing silver, not chasing gold, not a preacher for the fame or soul. With every question, every doubt, he cries for the lost, he calls them out. Through the podcast and the lines in sand, Rev stands firm with an outstretched hand. Come home, wanderer, come and see. The door is open, truth is free. Echoes rise beyond the veil, through the storm, through every trail. Little season won't last long, soon we'll join the victor's song. Rev the truth seeker calling through the dark, lighting up the silence with a holy spark. In this little season we'll stand side by side, truth and filter, saints won't hide. Beyond the lies, beyond this fight, we keep our lamps full, burning bright. Together we'll journey, come what may, till we see the King on that day. One by one the watchmen rise, lift their voices to the skies. Even so, Lord Jesus, come, we'll hold the line till kingdom come. Rev the truth seeker calling through the dark, lighting up the silence with a holy spark. In this little season we'll stand side by side. Truth Unfiltered saints won't